Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
Welcome back to the Epic Universal Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and this is the podcast where we cover the latest Universal news, rumors, and history. And as always, I'm joined by Eric Hersey, who is how many? It's less than 2 weeks at this point. You guys are headed back to Florida, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's Easter. We don't really get spring breaks for all three of my kids' school. Two of them already had a spring break, and my daughter, she has a little bit of time off for Easter. Mm-hmm. So we snuck in a trip, and we're going to be heading down to Central Florida, and I will once again get these lips next to some butterbeer. That is what.
All right. Well, we all have goals in life, I guess. Right. Okay. Though interesting news broke just today about, and I want to make sure to get this right. This is the Terra Luna?
Correct. Terra Luna Resort. Yeah, the sister is the Stella Nova. Mm-hmm. And yes, I've mispronounced and or messed those up a little bit. But Terra Luna was what was in the news today, Jim.
Yeah, it officially opened, and Universal pushed out a press release about this, mentioning that, 750 new hotel rooms have just been added to the resort. And we're beginning our march toward the opening of Epic Universe theme park. And in fact, we'll be talking a little bit about the team member previews that have been going on at that park in a moment. But I guess before we get to that, we should acknowledge our sponsors.
I think so.
All right, cool. So I want to offer a big thank you to our sponsor, Be Our Guest Vacations. And are you planning your next adventure? Let the experts at Be Our Guest Vacations take care of the details. As a platinum-level earmarked travel agency, they provide top-tier concierge services for trips to Universal Orlando, Universal Hollywood, the Disney parks, cruises, and more. Get started today at beourguestvacations.com, and be sure to mention that the Epic Universal Podcast sent you. So, all right, sliding straight into the news, Eric, and as we were just talking about, team member family previews of Epic Universe have been going on now, since the first week of March or thereabouts?
Yeah, well, it's March 17th, I think, is when they started the second wave of previews, and it's going up until, April 5th right now. But it was just team members prior to, but now you get to bring family, which is defined, and this does matter, I guess, is strictly as spouses, children, siblings, or individuals close enough to be considered family. So I don't know where that's at on the birth certificates or marriage license. Who is close enough to be considered family?
Yeah.
But I think that's what caused a little bit of the controversy this week. If you were out on X or Instagram or pretty much any social media, have you seen any of this, Jim?
Yeah, actually, it was this past Saturday where it began to be shared on social media that Universal had literally sent an email blast out to everyone who worked at the Universal Orlando Resort, and pressing just what Eric shared, to the effect of, if you're bringing friends and family to the early previews of the park, we'd like these folks to actually be friends and family, because what had begun to happen, and anyone who's been on social media knows this, that a number of influencers have gotten into the park. And what's fascinating about this is that the team members have been told expressly, to the effect of, don't take pictures, don't post video. And a number of these folks who have been brought into the park as guests, supposedly friends and family, have violated this.
Right.
And I have to say, Len and I have been doing this thing, working in the themed entertainment space for decades at this point. And Mr. Sess and I have a hard and fast rule, which basically is that no story, no matter how juicy, no matter how behind the scenes, and it is, no story is somebody losing their job over, ending somebody's career. And that, to me, I mean, when I look, for example, at there's somebody who's posted 90 minutes of footage
Whoa.
that they took inside the park, like documenting entire lands and attractions. And it's one of these things where it's like, oh, pal, whoever brought that person in, that's going to go up the food chain, and someone is potentially their career is going to end.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I have to say that there's a part of me, I mean, don't get me wrong, that you and I have both benefited from the amazing flyovers of bioreconstruct. We've watched this park come up out of the ground. But there's also a part of me right now that, well, I want to see it. I want to experience it. I don't know. I don't want somebody running up to me, Darth Vader's his father, Rosebud is his sled. Just sort of like,
damn it, Jim, we needed to say spoilers before you said that.
there we go. He's been dead the whole time.
Right.
Give us a chance to get in there and enjoy it for ourselves.
Right. I'm 100% with you, Jim, because as much as I love to see all this, part of me was like, if I wasn't doing a podcast, I'd probably stay away from a lot of it, right? And I even thought to myself today, all right, if I was, let's just say, considered close enough to be family to somebody that would just ask me, I would probably say no, because at the end of the day, I want to experience it with my family. Like, I want to walk through. I don't want to see it myself, no matter how many juicy things, and talk to you and be like, I saw this, so forth. Like, I would want to see it with my 18-year-old, my 14-year-old, and my 8-year-old, and my wife, obviously. So, like, I am glad that at least the people that I run with on X have not shared and leaked. If anything, most of my people are kind of condemning those that are sharing stuff. So I have yet to see. I saw one picture that was like somebody trying to walk through a portal that was accidentally retweeted or something like that. So I'm just happy that they are kind of pulling that down.
Okay.
Like, and I think there are like those that want to see it themselves are trying to police it, so that way we don't accidentally get stuck by seeing something we didn't want to see.
Oh, true. But conversely, though, what's kind of interesting is that the folks who've actually gotten in early and, for example, are getting ride-throughs on things like Monsters Unleashed. And, I've been seeing notes to the effect of, well, it was nice, but three of the figures weren't working. And it's like, pal, you are there 2 months before this park opens. The fact that ride is operating at all,
right?
Let alone that, oh, well, 3 of the figures aren't working. It's just sort of like, this is what soft openings are all about. You get these figures up. And in fact, what was especially funny is to have people making these sorts of comments. And then I want to say just earlier today, somebody sent along footage from Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
Oh, I saw that one.
There we go.
Oh my, where she's dead-eyed and like Odie is sleeping or something like that. I saw that one too. Yeah.
And it was just one of these things where it's like that ride, not a full year yet, but it's just sort of like, they're still struggling to keep those figures up and running.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I understand you pay a lot of money. You fly down to Florida, you buy admission to a theme park. You'd like everything to be running. And I'd like to be 50 pounds lighter and have my hair back. But that's not going to happen.
Well, I think so. What I looked at, I asked on Twitter, I was pretty active trying to find some stuff out. And I said, what are you allowed to post pictures of? Because you are seeing portal pictures, right? And I definitely saw pictures of Toothless and several other little areas. So it looks to me like if a team member is taking that picture, almost like an official picture, you're allowed to post those. So we've seen a lot of those. So it's not, I mean, it was great to see Toothless in all these pictures. So there are, and it looks to me like you're allowed to comment to an extent, but I haven't seen any heavy spoilers of like what to expect here or that. But then again, I haven't been searching too deep, but I have seen a lot of people praise a lot of what they've saw. Like people are saying they're ranking the coasters they've got to do and the different attractions. I've seen a lot of good things from Monsters Unchained, and I've seen a lot of good things from the Stardust Racers. Like a lot of people saying these are just fantastic and life-changing. And I don't know, if the echo chamber is just circling because I'm very positive Universal right now, and I get a lot of those positive responses. But from those that I've been following, it seems like there is a lot of great. It is living up to a lot of the hype.
And that's nice to hear, because again, this will put Disney's feet to the fire. I mean, don't get me wrong. We already know from what's coming with, the Cars Road Rally and what we're seeing for, the size and the scale of what they're going to be doing for Monsters Land at the studio. I mean, this is a Disney that feels like, okay, we need to step up. And it would certainly be helpful because people forget that part of the Island of Adventure story that Disney, in fact, Mr. Schul tells the story about during the preview. I want to say that opened in May of '99. And during the preview, virtually all of upper management of Imagineering was inside of that park. And in fact, for example, they'd hear, hey, Spider-Man is actually up and running, and everybody would run over to that side of the park to check it out because they were plans that in response to Islands, that there were 4 major attractions that were going to go into all of the Florida parks to counteract the notion of, okay, we need to step up our game. But of course, anybody who knows their Universal Orlando history, this was during the period where they had done that weird rebranding of the entire resort, the Universal Escape. And it so confused consumers because they were like, you opened the whole theme park but it's not called Universal Escape. No, it's Islands. And Disney actually effectively told the Imagineers, stand down. This isn't having an impact on our Florida parks. We won't go forward with construction of these giant new attractions. But the fact that here is Disney already announced and potentially breaking ground. This is different. This is like,
this is how we're getting to Villains Land, right?
There we go.
This is what's happening. I think it's been fun to see, and it'll be interesting. And obviously, let's keep the leaks inside. We don't need to see anything. Let a lot of us see it, on the 22nd and after of May. So
there we go. Just want to put one thing out there, because we can make this happen, folks. If we all say, "Ooh, that's something I want." I mean, face it, BioReconstruct has done an amazing job documenting this park coming up out of the ground. He has some amazing photography from literally when this was dirt to now.
Yes.
And it's just the whole notion of, wouldn't it be lovely if, say, a year or so from now, after the park opens up, that we were all able to open a beautiful coffee table book that had these amazing photographs that BioReconstruct has taken over the site for all of these months, for all of these years. I mean, wouldn't that be something you'd put your hard-earned money down for? And better yet, wouldn't it be cool if, say, this book featured text by the Permit Princess herself, Alicia Stella? I mean, what if the two of them were to get together on a book? Wouldn't that be worth $50, $60, $70 to have that, to be able to look back at the birth of this place and how it came up out of the ground? I think we need to start talking about this, and potentially...
Sounds like a Kickstarter needs set up or something, right?
I think so. So if you have any enthusiasm for this idea, folks, if you want to reach back, let us know, and we will pass this along to Alicia and BioReconstruct. And maybe we can actually get this thing going.
I think like pre-order numbers would be really motivational, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm thinking the exact same thing. So all right.
I love it, Jim. Okay. That's fantastic. But you were speaking of BioReconstruct. Actually, we had a little bit of a conversation. He was the one that broke the news to me of the new Universal sign that was going up. So did you see that?
Now, this is over Kirkman Road. Is that correct?
That's what it says. So this was my problem, and it's as weird. I've never seen this. How can you get nostalgic for something you've never seen before? Because I saw that getting pulled up, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that is amazing, and it's made in the same way in design as what was originally there in 1990. Now and then I asked a foolish question of like, I'm not too sure where, like, I don't have the geography down yet. Like, I don't understand it. And then I got an amazing like documentation of like overhead signs and this and so forth to get all of that information together to show like where it was and where it is now and that. But that is all new. That is just coming together. And I was oddly nostalgic for something I never saw before. So I was like, what's this?
That's an excellent description. Nostalgic for something I haven't seen before.
Well, that's the stuff I love. But did you see this sign kind of getting built? I didn't know. I mean, it's a nice little ad.
I will have to go out and seek this stuff out. But for me, I guess what's interesting about this, and that this is another aspect of what's about to happen, we're getting the Universal campus spreading out in so many interesting ways. I mean, remember, we saw the borders effectively get bumped out with the arrival of Endless Summer. And now, when you think about the Terra Luna, the Stella Nova, the Helios, in addition to the actual physical park, I have to admit, I'm going to be intrigued to see the signage and how they face it. You have a lot of people who are going to come into town with rental cars who are going to have to navigate this campus that's kind of all over the place. And don't get me wrong, that we've obviously seen the fleet of buses that in fact, the electric buses that are supposed.
The electric buses, yeah.
Yeah.
And they've been adding all those like street signs. They've been adding those new versions of signs all over. So this is this. So it. I mean, yeah, I think that they're just going to make it. They have to make it easy for us because people like myself, I drive down, and the last thing in the world I want to do is get lost. I get super frustrated. I get my road rage and start cursing at anybody that's either in my way or going the wrong way. And I tend to be a nice guy normally, but there's a lot of people that that's going to be in my shoes. So make it easy for us, and we will come back.
Which is why you never want to take Orlando area driving instructions from me, because again, I lived there in the 90s, and I'm one of those terrible people that gives you landmarks that don't exist anymore. All right, you know where Skull Kingdom used to be? Turn there. Where Wet and Wild once was. Go 2 streets up from there. And it's like, don't listen to that jerk.
Not helpful for me. Well, that's why Uber's there. You're not going to be my Uber driver.
But
hey, we're actually talking about buses and traveling, and there was actually and I don't know if this is news or not. This is a great segment, news or not. Jim, there was a leak, so to speak. In a bus, there was a sign that had the Mario Kart ride, and then next to it, it basically says, you buy Express Pass. So everybody is taking that and looking to say, is Express, because as a designer, Jim, and I do graphic designs and have done that for years, right? I would not put a graphic of something like Mario Kart and then the call to action as Express lane or Express available if I didn't think those two things went together, right? Because you automatically assume, and that is what people online are doing. So there was an article out there on WDWNT.com that's kind of putting this together, that Express Pass could be available, which has not been announced by any means. So that is interesting. Don't you think?
No, I agree. And again, I'm a big believer in Chekhov's gun, to the effect of you don't drop that sort of information unless it's actually going to happen. So, well,
the other thing that was funny, and they reported this, so give the credit where credit is due on this. There was a moment in time where they had it on the website that says Universal Express after 4 p.m. for 3 park premier pass holders, Express and Express Unlimited passes for Florida. So but they took it off the internet. So they put it online and they took it back down. So it might be one of those. So we might have a little bit of not inside knowledge, but the fact is that they might have that available for Epic Universe, which I think would be almost a must-have if you want to do everything.
Oh, no, absolutely. But more to the point, look at the smart choice. It's only after 4 p.m.
Yeah.
At a time when folks who've gotten up to be in the park at opening and have done a full 8 hours in the heat and humidity of Orlando, and I'm going back to the hotel and lie down. I'm gonna go get something to eat. So at a time when the lines are starting to get reasonable, the notion of, and here's the special perk that happens after 4 o'clock, and you get these folks to go back into the park at a time when, you're back in the park. Don't you want dinner?
Right.
Don't you want to go back through that store again? Get yourself a $70 Spirit jersey? Come on.
Right. No, I think so. That was interesting that I thought we should just bring up, and we'll see. We'll follow along as that goes.
Okay.
But Jim, we also had a couple listener suggestion questions or just general feedback that I wanted to hit real quick. Did you see Travis R. sent us an email?
I saw this come through, and Travis, I have to say, as a military veteran, I am am intrigued by this. To explain what we're talking about here, folks, Travis R. sent us this email. Hey, Eric and Jim, love the podcast, but you really should tell people about the Universal Military Pass. Now, a season pass for 2025 with limited blackout dates is $210 for 2 parks all year and $245 for 3 parks. Works for active duty and retired. You can pick it up at on base, and and he's right. It's a great deal.
Great deal, right?
Yeah, but it's a problem. My base, my Fort Devens, Massachusetts, where I spent my 4 years. As soon as Ted Kennedy lost his pull in the Senate, they closed that base. So I got to find a place where I can get this thing. But ooh, that sounds great.
Yeah. Right. I was looking at it. So thanks for sharing that. That's a great information. I think a lot of people could definitely benefit.
Oh, absolutely. Travis, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, the other one came through from Universal High, which is a good follow on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Posts all types of cool, nostalgic back stuff. Dug up rare footage of the Power Rangers live event from May 27, 2000. That was in Universal Studios Hollywood. So, Jim, Power Rangers at both parts. I mean, it was in Hollywood Studios, and then also, do you know anything about this, or is this something we got to dig some information on?
I think we need to do some digging. Now, mind you, I have been on. There's no other way to describe this. I have been on an eBay spree recently, March 2025, my birthday month. So frankly, I'm overspending. I've been over on eBay buying up, here, things like this. This is the Universal Souvenir Pictorial Guide.
Ooh.
All right. But what's interesting is if you'll notice here, for example, this is from the year where they had a Flintstones live show in the park. All right.
Okay.
And actually, if you notice on the bottom, there's also the image of Back to the Future, the ride. This is the first year that was open to the park. But I have been buying up a ton of these because they're amazing snapshots of what the park was like for that year. And I have to tell you, Eric, at this point, I think I have 15 of these. And I'm literally at this point in baseball card country where like, need it, got it. And it's sort of like, just trying to fill out the run. And so I will go through these and start to look to see if there's anything Power Ranger related. But yeah, that's that. And we're going to have to take a look at this footage because that looks like a very bare bones show that's going on there.
Yeah. I'd like to say these aren't my Power Rangers. My Power Rangers were like probably 96, 97. So like this looks like next evolution. But I'm very intrigued and maybe we'll find some more about that. And also Stingray Travel sent over some cool stuff about our last SpongeBob kind of episode and mentioned that they actually had in Six Flags a ride that ran throughout Halloween Fright Night. That was a SpongeBob ride and kind of sent over a brochure. And then there was also at IAPA this year, I think it was this year, there was a VR ride that they're showing for SpongeBob. So interesting SpongeBob adjacent, Nickelodeon adjacent stuff that not, like Six Flag had some SpongeBob, and it's just interesting how that IP travels.
Yeah.
Because, and after our last show, I actually found that they had a whole Nickelodeon land in a theme park in Blackpool, England, and I watched that YouTube video. So all types of fun stuff.
Okay,
SpongeBob related. So thanks for sending that information over, feedback, and some good videos for us to watch to kind of go along with the episodes we just produced.
Yeah, because again, it's always amazing where you'll trip over a story for this show. And in fact, on the coming up shortly, we're going to be using the Mardi Gras celebration at Universal Studios Florida as a reason to look back at the event that actually, in a weird sort of way, kicked open the door for Halloween Horror Night out in Hollywood. And this was, if you can believe it, Eric, went by the name of Mardi Gras de Mexico.
All right.
But again, we'll talk about that in a moment, folks. But first, this.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
And we're back. Okay, folks. For starters, just want to remind you that this weekend, and remember, this episode of the Epic Universal podcast goes live on Friday the 28th, and this is the last weekend of Mardi Gras International Flavors of Carnival at the Universal Orlando Resort. The last day of this year's event is March 30th, and kind of appropriate because this is actually the 30th anniversary, Eric, of the kickoff of the seasonal event at Universal Studios Florida. And in fact, I have to admit, I find it fascinating. The exact same year that Universal gets its Mardi Gras up out of the ground is also when Epcot gets its International Flower and Garden Festival going. That's celebrating its 30th anniversary. So that tells you a lot about 1995, folks. All right, you had two parks that, to be honest, were struggling in the off season to get people to come through the door. So they were trying to create things that would get the locals to come out during the slower time of year. So Flower and Garden and Mardi Gras. But here's the thing that I didn't know until just recently, that the idea of staging a Mardi Gras related event at a Universal park didn't actually start in Florida, Eric. It actually started out in Southern California in the late 1960s as a relatively short-lived event called Mardi Gras de Mexico, which debuted at Universal Studios Hollywood in the summer of '68 and then came back 1 year later in a somewhat mutated form and with a different name, Fiesta Mexicana. And again, what's absolutely fascinating about these two events that shared a theme but had different names, crucial to the history of the Universal parks. Without a Mardi Gras de Mexico or a Fiesta Mexicana, which were hard tickets that were staged at the Universal Hollywood after that theme park had officially closed for the day, we might not have gotten things like Halloween Horror Nights or the soon to debut Universal Studios Hollywood's Fan Fest event, which again Alice and I are going to be doing in early May. All right, so how do we get a Mardi Gras in Mexico and a Fiesta Mexicana? This story starts 60 years ago. In fact, the year after the Universal City Tram Tour officially completes its first successful summer of operation. Now, if you've listened to previous editions of the Epic Universal podcast, we've established that the Universal City Tram Tour got underway out in Hollywood back in July of 1964, and that Universal management was pleased enough with how things had gone that first summer that they decided to make a sizable investment in the operation ahead of the tram tour's second summer of operation, which is why out ahead of the summer of '65, Universal flattened a hilltop that overlooked the lower lot. Now, Eric, before you took on your assignment here with the Epic Universal podcast. You were a big time Disney fan and got into the history, so you know all about Morgan Bill Evans.
I know all about Bill Evans. Absolutely.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, he was in charge of the horticultural side of things at the Disney theme parks for decades. And what's interesting is Morgan Bill got many of the trees that were used at Disneyland for free by working with the California Highway Department. The highway that's now known as the 5 that runs from LA down to San Diego was being built around the same time that Disneyland was under construction. And what Morgan Bill and his men would do was, after the highway construction crew had finished work for the day, they would drive out to literally where these people had stopped working for the day, and then remove any trees that were about to be uprooted or chopped down the following day. And Eric, they got some beautiful, big, full-grown trees for Disneyland for free by doing this.
Yeah, that's kind of genius on their behalf.
Well, now speaking of genius, okay, Universal does something similar in the fall of 1964, winter of 65. And again, what they've decided is, rather than have people who want to experience the Universal City Tram Tour, access that attraction by going through the studio's main entrance down on Lancashire, which, as the tour begins growing in popularity, it now is beginning to hinder day-to-day operations at the main gate, especially in the morning when and people in the union and performers are trying to get in. So it's like, all right.
Yeah.
So we need to move the entrance to the tram tour to somewhere else at Universal City. And the decision was made to move this part of the operation to a nearby hilltop that then overlooked the lower lot. In fact, what the studio really wanted to do was build a 10-acre visitor village that would be filled with movie-themed streets where people could then kill time by eating, shopping, watching shows, touring exhibits until it was their time to climb aboard the tram and then begin driving around the lower lot.
Well, that's a genius idea.
It was.
I mean, listen, that sounds like I'd want to do that right now.
Okay. but here's the thing. Universal's is going to have to spend $5 million to build the visitor village. And by the way,
makes a difference.
Yeah. And that's the thing. By the way, that's what its name was back in the mid-1960s. The Visitor Village at the Universal Entertainment Center at Universal City. And yes, you're right, Eric. That's kind of an awkward title for the tram tour. But here's
really hard to put on like even a brochure. It takes up the entire front page.
It is so interesting you said that, because I have a brochure that really does do that. Anyway, but again, in order just to get started here, you first need that 10-acre site up on that hillside overlooking the lower lot to be flattened, and that's going to be expensive. Except that Lou Wasserman, the then head of MCA Universal, and by the way, speaking of heads, we were just talking about BioReconstruct. He reached out a few weeks ago because you and I were talking about the Lou Wasserman statue that I guess had been moved to Central Park. Right. And how, that looks a lot like Abraham Lincoln. And BioReconstruct, in a recent set of message exchanges, explained why exactly that is, Eric. And that's because that statue actually had previously been a statue of our 16th president. And evidently...
What? Okay.
All right. At some point in the not-so-distant past, someone on the decorative side of Universal Parks had removed Honest Abe's head from that statue and then replaced it with one that had been sculpted of Lou's head, done in the same style and the same scale as the Lincoln statue.
Oh, great.
So the body, you're not wrong, the body is Lincoln in one of what we now consider to be one of the classic poses we typically see our 16th president in. But from the neck up, it's Lou Wasserman. And again, we know this because of the great knowledge and generosity of our eye in the sky BioReconstruct.
Oh, that's awesome. And not to derail, Lou Wasserman's statue is missing again, Jim.
Oh.
He's gone. We'll talk about it when he comes back up, but he's not there anymore.
Dang.
I left it out of the news because I'm like, we didn't need any more talk about Lou Wasserman's statue, and there we go. But you brought the goods.
Okay.
That is great. I've never heard that. That's fantastic.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway.
Okay. All right. So again, we were just talking about how Disney got all those treats for free by working with the California Highway Department. Well, Lou Wasserman notices in late 1964 that just a mile or so away from Universal City, the California Highway Department is in the process of extending the 101, now known as the Hollywood Freeway. And each day, they're having to haul in all of these dump trucks loaded with fill so that the highway department can then build up the roadbed for this extension project. So Lou, crafty Mr. Wasserman, he reaches out to the California Highway Department and says, hey, why go to all the expense of hauling in clean fill from far away for your highway extension project when I've got this hillside right up here that's full of stuff that's right nearby? That'll let you have for free. And the California Highway Department, they of course loved this idea. So they dispatch a earth moving team to that hilltop ASAP in the winter of 64, 65. And they make quick work of first clearing that 10-acre site, flattening it, and then hauling all the dirt down to where the Hollywood Freeway is being extended. And so this is how Universal today, a crucial area in that theme park in Southern California, which is now known as the Upper Lot, Universal Plaza, they got it basically for free in 1965.
Jim, just real quick, this is great because that move, I pulled that move in high school as well.
Oh.
My car was broken down. I had a 1986 Dodge Omni, and I convinced 10 of my friends and the teacher of the video production department to let us make a parody Lord of the Rings and push that car through town to the actual mechanic to save me from towing it. So like, and yes, so like that's a great move, Lou. I've done it myself, and anytime you can get that kind of free labor,
okay,
go for it.
I have to ask, given that you had a car that was not operating, you did do the "thou shalt not pass" joke, right?
Yes, and we even put the I think it was Howard Shore music in the background, and we had it play in our actual entire school. So it was the Fellowship of the Omni, and when you put the key in, that's when all the Night Riders or whatever would find you. It was a beautiful production, but more importantly, I got my already at the time 20-year-old car working, so I could stroll around. But that just reminded me of that, and I'm like, I need to tell Jim this.
Clever. Okay, but that said, not all smooth sailing for the Universal Tram Tour back in the mid-1960s, which we'll discuss in the second half of this feature. But first, this.
Hear that? It's SpringFest savings calling your name, only at Lowe's. Right now, get a free Select Ego 56-volt battery when you buy a Select Ego trimmer, blower, or mower. Plus, get your choice of any 2 bags of Miracle-Gro organic soil mix for only $16. Shop these can't-miss deals in-store or online today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/2. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Excludes Hawaii.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTESLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
And we're back. Okay, so as Eric and I were just discussing, it's now the summer of 65. And Universal Tram Tour about to begin its second summer of operation. And again, thanks to that $5 million expansion of the attraction, tourists now have a new place to explore, the Visitor Village at the Universal Entertainment Center at Universal City. Still a terrible name. As they wait.
Take a drink, Jim.
There we
you
go.
Need a breath.
They're all up there waiting for their turn on the tram. All right, but let's be honest here. The reason that most people come to Universal City and buy tickets to the tram tour is because they want to go behind the scenes at a really for real movie studio and see some stars. And lucky for Universal, at that time, 3 hit TV shows were filming on the lower lot. We had McHale's Navy, half-hour-long sitcom, aired weekly on ABC, starred Academy Award winner Ernest Borgnine, Tim Conway, and Joe Flynn. We also had The Munsters, which we've discussed on a recent Epic Universal podcast, half-hour-long sitcom. This airs weekly on CBS and starred Fred Gwynne, Al Lewis, and Yvonne DiCarlo. And then finally, we have The Virginian, which is an hour-long Western that aired weekly on NBC and stars James Drury, Lee J. Cobb, and Doug McClure. So, just to review, Eric, we have 3 TV shows that visitors to Universal City would have been familiar with that are in active production on the lower lot. They represent all 3 of the major television networks at that time. And again, you had your visitor village at the top, so people could be shopping and dining. Now the tram tour is actually starting to make Disney money. Rather than just selling tickets to the tram, people are buying souvenirs and dead food. Okay, but come the spring of 66, Universal learns that 2 of these shows, McHale's Navy and The Munsters, were being canceled, which only leaves The Virginian as the weekly TV show that people on the writing and doing the tram tour that they be familiar with. But now, the kicker, Eric, May of 1967, there is a fire on the Universal lower lot that does $1 million worth of damage. And care to guess which TV show's exterior sets went up in flames?
Hold on, let me see here. Would it be The Virginian?
Yes, it would be. Okay, but now where this gets especially interesting is that KTLA, Channel 5 out in the Los Angeles market, is able to get its newscopter. And by the way, again, this is the mid to late 1960s. Local news stations don't have newscopters. But again, this is the LA market, major market. So they're among the first to have a newscopter. Anyway, KTLA gets its newscopter up over the lower lot, and they get some spectacular footage. I mean, flames are leaping 200, 300 feet in the air as sections of Spartacus Square and Little Europe go up in smoke. Now, where this gets interesting is only 3 acres of Universal's 410-acre backlot burned down. But what happens over the summer of 67 is tram tour attendance drops significantly, which by the way, terrifies the guys up, the Universal executives in the Black Tower. And they're like, because when they reach out to LA locals, it's like, well, hang on, we saw the footage on KTLA. The tram tour burned to the ground. And it's like, no, 3 acres out of 410. No. And so to try to turn this false impression around, articles are printed in LA magazines and newspapers, but the summer of 67 is really, really tough for the folks who run the Universal City Tram Tour, and never mind the fact that just up the street this same summer is when Disneyland opens the brand new Tomorrowland, the World on the Move with the People Mover. And
yeah, that was a big deal for them too.
It was a very big deal. So now the folks at Universal, they have their terrible summer in 67. They start talking about, well, all right, what are we going to do? And then, interesting about into this conversation, they start having conversations like, well, what will Walt Disney do in this situation? If Disney were dealing with this sort of bad publicity, what would he do to convince tourists to come back to the family fun park? And looking back at this point, 1967, Disneyland had been open for 12 years. And you can actually look back at Disneyland history, and it's like, well, 4 years after that park opened, well, that's when they added in one fell swoop the Matterhorn, the monorail, and the subs.
Yeah.
So here's Universal now coming up on its 4th year for the summer of 68. And well, maybe that's the way we should go. We should add some major new attractions. And on the other hand, Lou Wasserman, very smart businessman, kind of tight with a buck. He's like, guys, we just spent $5 million building the visitor village. I don't think we've actually recovered that investment yet. And so Lou's basically, look, I get what you're saying. You got anything cheaper? Did Walt Disney do anything on a budget that then brought people back to Anaheim? And one Universal tram tour staffer who made regular trips up to Anaheim, I said, well, yeah, summer of 63, Disneyland staged this 3-month-long salute to Mexico. It actually started at a park July 29th. And what they did is they took Center Street, and that's one of those side streets off of Main Street. You're headed toward the castle. You look up to say, oh, a little dead-ended street. But what the Imagineers did is they transformed Center Street at Disneyland into a little slice of Mexico. So you got arts and crafts from south of the border. You got musical performing groups. And by the way, you're going to love this, Eric. This is supposedly the very first time churros are sold at Disneyland.
Oh, look at that. That's an idea that's paid dividends.
Well, no, that's it exactly. They were so popular that after 3 months, they end the Salute to Mexico. But no, let's keep the churros. This is great.
Well, real quick, Jim, that's so weird. Like, that's a weird promotion. Were they possibly, was it around the time when they were trying to do that international land or that was supposed to be behind? I mean, why would they just decide all of a sudden we're going to do a tribute to Mexico? Is it just
Well, an absolutely weird bend on this story was that there was an organization in the early 1960s called People to People that former President Dwight D. Eisenhower ran. And in fact, what's so interesting is when Dwight stepped down, he actually tried to persuade Walt Disney to become the head of the organization. But it was the notion of, I want to build better relationships with the United States and Mexico. And so Eisenhower reached out to Walt Disney and like, hey, can you help me out? And it's like, well, yeah, sure. Absolutely. We'll do.
Oh, what do you know? Okay. All right. Well, fair enough.
We'll do something there. But now, speaking of which, another thing that Disneyland did that was relatively inexpensive to stage, but really pulled in the crowds, was Dixieland at Disneyland, which was this after-hour hard ticket. Which, by the way, first debuted at the park in October of 1960, where guests would come in after the park had officially closed for the day. And for $4.50 a person, Eric, these people could, from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m., they could listen to Dixieland music performed live, as well as ride every single ride, show, and attraction in the park for free. And again, remember, this is back in the era of the ticket book. So it's like you're getting live music and free run of the place. Oh, yes, I want that.
Now, I feel like this was when they had Louis Armstrong come out on like the Rivers of American Play, right?
They did. And
I looked for that footage for one of your Disney Unpacks and could not find good.
I mean, what was interesting that Dixieland at Disneyland, I want to say Louis didn't start doing the show till 63, 64. He actually wanted, it was one of those things where you show me it's popular, I'll come. And then it was all right, it's popular. And oh, by the way, pay me. But now back to Lou Wasserman. So he hears about these two events at Disneyland. Again, that 3-month-long Salute to Mexico from 63, and then the hard ticket, after-hour hard ticket, Dixieland at Disneyland. And he basically tells the folks at Universal City Tram Tour that, can't we do something for the summer of 68 that combines these two ideas? And the folks at Universal City Tram Tour say, well, yes, we could do that, but we should also add something new to the tram tour. I mean, give locals a reason to come back and see the place this coming summer, which is when Lou supposedly says the fateful phrase that, well, can you guarantee me that whatever we add to the tram tour doesn't burn down? And on next week's show, we are going to talk about what got added to the Universal Tram Tour that couldn't ever burn down. And no, we are not talking about the burning house. That didn't get added to the tram tour till the summer of 73, some 5 years later. But I promise, as part of the tail end of this feature, we'll take a close look at Mardi Gras de Mexico and Fiesta Mexicana, which again, as I mentioned earlier, plowed the road for Halloween Horror Nights, not to mention the Fan Fest event that's going to be held next month at Universal Studios Hollywood.
Oh, Jim. I mean, you know what was also very impressive about this? Not once did we make a Epcot France fire joke.
That actually, yes. That what I love about that story is it was a walk-in freezer that caught on fire.
How does that happen?
Well, no, that's it exactly. You know, it's just sort of like, really, the cold thing caught on fire.
Yeah. No, that was fascinating. I'm very excited to hear the second half here, and that is that's laying nice groundwork.
I'm happy to, and again, I literally tripped over this story hunting for Universal 1960s era Universal stuff on eBay, and suddenly
that's so awesome
seeing these weird tickets and brochures, and what the hell?
Now, Jim, what version do you still need of those things? Because if somebody has one and they want to offload it to you, I'm pretty sure they can find you on Twitter.
Well, I think I'm good at this point. I mean, I'm holding up to show you here. I have an actual program from Fiesta Mexicana, the brochure for
That's
that.
So cool.
I have literally a ticket for the Mardi Gras de Mexico, and even the little yellow metal thing that they gave you to wear, you know, in much the Disney tradition of the wristband, the idea was they'd kick you out of the park unless you could show, no, I got my little metal thing that says,
look at that,
Mardi Gras de Mexico. I'm supposed to be here. Show me where the tequila is. So, but anyway, it's an amazing story. It goes in so many different directions. And sadly, I will tell you, Eric, one thing that initially is, oh my God, this is the American debut of Charo. She's meant.
Oh yeah,
and it turns out, no, it's a different Charo. But you know, I thought for a minute there, it's like, and it's got Charo in it. So anyway.
Oh, great. Well, thanks, Jim. Those are always fascinating. I love those stories. And hey, we love when you guys reach out and give us ideas. And so Jim can save money. If you give us the ideas, he doesn't have to scoop around on eBay, right?
Well, that is true. But on the other hand, I have a problem. I don't know what you call it.
I was going to say, problem, Jim? Do you got a problem?
There
That's
we go.
Fine.
No problem.
All right. Well, hey, if you want to reach out, I'm at Eric Hersey on X, Instagram, all those. So we'd love to hear your show ideas. Mm-hmm. Send us cool vintage stuff. If you were by any chance at one of these fiestas, send us that. But Jim, if they want to connect with you online, where can they find you?
As always, you can follow me on X and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. And I guess that's going to wrap it up for today's show, folks. So thanks for listening, and stick around for what's coming up this month over on the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to today's episode. And if you like what you heard, head on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. This really helps get the word out about our shows. We also have some other shows on the network that you might like. Each week, we drop a brand new Disney dish with Lon Testa, For animation and movie news, please listen to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. By the way, you can also check out Drew's other podcasts, like The Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast, which he does with Charles Hood. For all things Lucasfilm, why don't you subscribe to Looking at Lucasfilm with Brian Gahn? Likewise, we have I Want That Too with the lovely Lauren Hersey, our weekly podcast that features the latest merch and the stories behind that merch. And our epic Universal podcast takes a look at the Universal theme park. So please join Eric Hersey and I on that weekly. If you enjoy theme park history, we also host Manufacturing the Magic with Shelley and Noah Valladolid. That podcast tells the story of how we got the modern theme parks that we enjoy today. Join myself, Len Testa, and veteran Imagineer Jim Schul for our latest season of Disney Unpacked, our first ever video series exclusively for Patreon. These get released first Sunday of every month, and each month we release several exclusive podcasts to help support this video series. I want to thank everyone that supports the Jim Hill Media Network. For more information about podcast and content, head on over to jimhillmedia.com. So that's going to do it for now, folks. Thanks again for listening, and we will catch up on the next show.